This is Wayne Goldsmith, and welcome to Sports Thoughts. I've spent 25 years travelling the world working with some of the world's best athletes, coaches and teams, trying to discover what it is that they do, how they think, and what it takes to be the best in sport. Subscribe to our newsletter at wgcoaching.com to keep up to date with my thoughts on sport.
It's Wayne's World with Wayne Goldsmith.
I wasn't sure if Sam was listening. I'm never entirely sure if he's ready. Oh, that was extremely messy, but it's a nice way to welcome in our regular Wednesday morning guest. WGCoaching.com is his website. He's coming to New Zealand at the back end of July. We've got details of his Wellington event for you soon. It's Wayne Goldsmith, of course. Good morning, sir.
Well, I don't know about that. I feel like I'm over there somewhere. It's pouring, raining, freezing cold and a bit dark. So maybe it's all part of my acclimatisation and preparation for Wellington in July.
Well, I can tell you, Mr. Goldsmith, that Wellington today is having one of those days that it does turn on occasionally. It's a cracker, hardly any wind, beautiful blue skies. In fact, I feel like I'm on the Gold Coast.
Well, it was funny. I was in Aberdeen the other week in the north of Scotland, as you know, and it was about 14 degrees, and they said, "Hey, you brought the good weather with you." And I just said, "Is this good weather?" I couldn't believe it. But yeah, they were walking around very happy with themselves that the sun was shining and it was 14. And they said, "Oh, you brought the good weather with you from the Gold Coast." So yeah, I think everybody's perspective, isn't it? As Billy Connolly says, mate, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only the wrong clothes.
That's very good. If you've got a question for Wayne at any point during our chat, you can text it through on 5009. We spoke at length on the show yesterday, Wayne, as you know, about sideline behaviour, abuse of officials and that sort of general topic. A lot of feedback from people. Is this something that is apparent in Australia as well? That certainly, I'm not even talking about elite level here, but at junior sport, that some of the behaviour that you see towards officials, towards opposition players, towards other parents is perhaps a little less than would be ideal?
Well, unfortunately, in all the time that I've been involved in sport, one, it's a global issue. It's not obviously just a Kiwi issue or an Australian issue. And it'd be fair to say that we see it across most sports. However, where you seem to see it the most is where the parents or the fans are in close proximity to the playing arena. So that means typically Saturday morning football, where all the parents are sort of mixed on the sideline and right down on the sideline. So there's that proximity between them and the officials, or them and other parents, or them and the coaches. I think it's that proximity. You know, we definitely see it in swimming, you see it in gymnastics, but I think, Tony, that little bit of distance, it's not quite so obvious, whereas the football codes and netball to a degree, certainly club netball, junior netball, where everyone's down around the field, yeah, we see it unfortunately around the world, and it's always ugly.
Now, you had a fairly personal experience here that happened, just a short time ago. Your 16-year-old son is a local football, in other words, soccer referee, and he had to say a few words to a couple of people.
Yeah, well, our boys, we've got three boys, 16, 13 and 9, and they're all tied up with local football. We've got our football club 5 minutes away, which means they can walk there and walk back. And as the time has evolved, the 16-year-old's gone from being a kid in a little team and then playing as a teenager, and now he mixes playing with the under-18s with making some extra cash as a referee. And he referees sometimes 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, up to 14-year-olds. And he came home the other day and he said, "Hey, Dad, I had to have a go at a coach this morning." And I said, "Tell me what happened." And he said, "Well, one of my touch judges," so again, my son is 16, he's the centre ref, and his touch judges are 14, and they're officiating over an 8-year-old game, a game between the under-9s. And one of the officials was alleged to have put his flag up the one way, gave a throw-in to one team instead of the other team. And the coach goes up and I'm talking the foulest language you can imagine, went up and absolutely ripped shreds out of this poor 14-year-old volunteer touch judge for giving a sideline throw-in to the wrong team. I mean, one, their little kids are probably... I argue now you really don't need officials with really little kids. It should just be have a bit of fun. Two, unacceptable abuse of an official by someone who should have known better, not just a father, but a coach of the opposition team. And for my son to have to step in and play the adult to an adult and say, hey, that's unacceptable behaviour, stop abusing the touch judges or I'll call the game off, that's terrible, because what ends up happening is my son, the 14-year-olds, they go, screw this, I'm not going to volunteer anymore, and all of a sudden the clubs are desperate for officials or they can't have games. There's no justification, but I mean, it's such a minor, irrelevant thing. A throw-in call for an under-9 soccer team is enough to get the coach swearing and abusing a young touch judge. But how have we allowed it to get to that stage?
How have we allowed it to get to that stage, Wayne? I mean, that is utterly mind-blowing to me. But even if you said, well, actually, it was an offside that led to a goal, so it was like a game-changing event in the game. These kids are 9 years old, or 8 and 9 years old. It doesn't matter. How have we let ourselves get to the point where adults act in this way?
Well, mate, again, it's you and I, one of our favourite topics is the whole nature of competitive sport. That I know I was talking to a swimming group in Ireland a few weeks ago, and I just said, guys, one of the things that we know, for example, that officials can do very well is they can play a critical role in education. And what I'd like to see, instead of officials and coaches and parents and people involved, instead of saying, well, which kid won the breaststroke race and which kid do we need to disqualify because they had half a toenail too high in their technique or something like that, we should be saying, look, officials are ideally placed as educators and as sport developers and to create positive relationships and to provide great experiences to kids in sport. I think that it's just part of the whole system, mate, where that coach has gone and he's studied coach education, where they've said, we're going to teach you how to plan. We're going to teach you how to do drills. We're going to teach you how to set up structures and systems. Very, very little, usually an afterthought, do they run a session, do the sports run a session saying it's about respect, about kindness, about decency, about integrity, about modelling behaviours for your young kids that show them the importance of composure and of appreciation and of respect and of good values. To me, that was, I've talked to a lot of people lately about how would you redesign coach education. So no doubt whatsoever, first session would be, why do you coach? What's coaching all about? What's driving you to coach? Second thing would be about creating great relationships, positive experiences, about respect and values. Third thing would be developmental psychology and how to allow kids and facilitate kids developing as kids into teenagers, adolescents and adults. And anything else, I either give to them in a book, put it online, or we do it on another time. But I think we've got to focus on coaches being coached on how to inspire kids and move them away from this win-loss and physiology and exercise science, because when it comes down to it, they're not the really critically important things. And then, of course, what the coach is doing is they're looking at the game, instead of seeing a bunch of little kids running around, have a good fun with a bunch of other little kids, they're seeing every decision through the eyes of what we've taught them, through the eyes of someone who's supposed to be coaching little kids how to win games. And it's just completely wrong. And I don't know how many sports are desperate for volunteers and for officials to just come in and say, look, we can only give you an hour of our time to help officiate. And then they go, hang on a minute, I don't want to be abused. I don't want to be called names. I don't want to be subject to terrible behaviour. I've got better things to do with my time. And all of a sudden, we've got no sports experiences available. So everyone, mate, to use a scientific term, pull your head in. Everyone, it's not that serious.
How should, because often the officials, I mean, like your son, and often it's a parent who just steps in, and we talked a lot about this yesterday as well, to referee the game or umpire the game or whatever it might be. Should they also have in their mind a bit of an educational focus, a bit of an, obviously you want to play within the broad laws of the game, but is it also important to be a bit flexible rather with the application of those rules so that the kids are actually learning some stuff while they're playing?
Well, look, mate, I think so. I think the two things that I often say to coaches and officials is nobody's perfect. Even the NRL, with multiple angles and a bunker to help them make decisions, are still getting things wrong. So how does a 14-year-old volunteer amateur official who's just there out of their goodness of their heart donating their time, how can they possibly be expected to get it 100% right? We've got football referees allegedly being paid in Europe well over $100,000, $200,000 a year, being very well paid, and they've got now their VAR, and they're not getting it 100% right. Again, I think our expectations of junior game officials is way, way too high anyway. It's, respect the fact that they're giving up their time so that your kids can have a wonderful experience and we can have sport at all. That's critically important for everybody. But mate, I totally agree. I think that the officials are ideally placed. The example I use quite often when I'm talking to swimming officials is say, right, a kid, and we see quite often following the rules of the international body who's called FINA, that the kid, sure, their feet in butterfly might be, a centimetre too high, or their kick and breaststroke may not be exactly symmetrical, which is what the rules of international swimming say. But, I'm desperate to get 8, 9, 10-year-old kids just turning up. So the officials have got a choice to make, Piney. When the kid gets out of the pool, they can say to them, you're disqualified under FINA Rule 16.395, your kick's illegal. They can do that. And probably some would say they're justified in doing that. However, the official can also choose to say, hey, look, I love the way your kick's coming along. Gee, you're improving a great deal. There's a couple of little things you could probably work on, but here's a certificate for trying so hard, and here's a article on breaststroke, or here's a picture on how you improve your breaststroke, but well done, and here's a free ice cream. Look, it's the same thing. One way we're both saying we need to improve your kick in that case, or whatever the skill might be. One line is, I'm going to kick you in the head because I'm going to enforce these adult rules that are designed for Olympic level, national level athletes. The other one says, I'm going to help you learn, I'm going to help you improve, and I'm going to create a positive experience so you come back next week. That's a decision that we can say to officials, sure, administer the rules and policies, but your key role is education, training, development, and creating positive experiences when you're talking about little kids.
Got a question through, which actually came through yesterday and suggested that you might be a good man to ask this question too. It was about a parent who spent a lot of time on the sidelines watching his son play, and he said that he realises that, that at times he was, vociferous. He was too passionate with his comments. He yelled a bit too much, and he to his credit, recognised that and has kind of cooled himself down. But he was asking whether you had any advice to parents who, in the heat of the moment, know that sometimes they can cross a bit of a line, they can get a bit abusive on the sideline. What would your advice be to parents like that?
To have some sort of strategy. It'd be like teaching anger management or self-control to anybody playing in any walk of life, is have a strategy. If you feel that, go Jace, come on, that's fine. Just go with it and always yell and support your kids. Of course, that's just part of the wonderful joy of watching your kids play sport. But if you start to feel that, that urge to be negative or that urge to criticise an official, particularly a volunteer junior official, or to have a go at the opposition, or to step up and start to become a little bit negative, just a strategy of taking a breath, counting to 3 and slowly letting it exhale. Or if you have to, walk away from the sideline for 5 minutes and come back, or just have some strategies in place that if you start to feel that negativity or that anger or that frustration come, mate, very simply, a big breath in and hold it and just go, relax. or relax, and just some simple techniques, and stay focused on the positive aspects of watching your kids run it, which for all of us, mate, it doesn't last forever. That joy of watching our kids run around, kicking a footy or throwing a netball or swimming a lap, that beautiful joy of just watching your kids do something doesn't last for very long. There's no space for negativity, certainly no space for abuse or foul language.
Wonderful stuff. We've got a couple of tickets to give away to your event here in Wellington, which I'm very much looking forward to being a part of on Friday, July 26. We'll give those away shortly to a deserving person. In the meantime, Wayne, you put an extra layer on there on the Gold Coast. I'll take my jersey off here in Wellington, and we'll chat again next Wednesday.
Mate, at some stage we may be talking about Australia and New Zealand World Cup cricket final. I'm looking forward to that very much.
Me too, Wayne. Good on you, mate. Wayne Goldsmith.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to hear more sports thoughts, subscribe to our newsletter at wgcoaching.com.